So that doesn't even, you can't even drag that with your finger. So I don't know. I think, you know, the landlord's talking about me being able to move back in here very quickly, and I just don't see it. I don't see how this is. I don't see how this is going to happen. I mean, it's just standing water left this smoke residue behind, and yeah, I just don't know. But I thought I would show you what I went through to get out of here, and some of the do's and don'ts. I heard a lot of commotion, and I wasn't sure what it was about. And then finally, after a minute or two, I smelled something, and I looked, and there was smoke just billowing through that transom window. One of my Facebook friends and one of my friends from Gainesville, one of my close personal friends from Gainesville, he's a recently retired professional firefighter, and I'm sure he'll want to ride shotgun on everything I'm saying here. But one thing that I think is true based on my experience at least is that by the time you smell smoke, you're in big trouble. Because I didn't smell anything until after I could look up and see smoke coming through that transom window with gusto. I mean, there was a lot of smoke. So I grabbed my hard drive array off the top of this little bookshelf here. One of the right things that I did was to have in my mind a thought about whatever I would do in a situation like this. And it was, well, I'm going to grab my hard drive array, and I didn't have a cat at the time, but that was an easy add, and then grab this day bag, and that was it. And so then I came to the door, and I opened the door, and there was just a wall. There isn't much visibility anyway. There's no light here unless you turn it on yourself. But there was just a wall of black smoke because there's no glass on this window above my air conditioning compressor. So the smoke was finding that way out. And you can see what it was trying to do. So I closed the door behind me, obviously. Well, I don't know, obviously, but I did. And now, here's a bad one. I'm going to tell you everything I did that I'm proud of and everything I did that I'm not proud of. And one that I'm not proud of was that I stopped to lock this door, which is crazy. There is absolutely nothing in there that was worth locking a door for, while this whole part of the place was filling up with smoke. And it was filling up very, very, very fast. So now I'm essentially by feel, I'm grabbing this handrail. I've got the cat in the other hand. And I get here to the downstairs. And, you know, I had to go up this little half a flight to get to the main stairwell. And the smoke hit me directly because, of course, it was like trying to go the wrong way down a working chimney. So the smoke's coming up as I'm coming down, and it's getting thicker as I'm coming down, mostly by feel. Well, totally by feel at this point. Visibility was 0. And you can see how it was venting out directly into my path from this little transom window that doesn't have any glass on it. And the door doesn't have any glass on it. The door to this apartment where the fire started. So when I got to about here was when I thought I might have to turn around. And very, very fortunate that I didn't. You can see how hot it got. And I'm going to pause it for just a second to get out of somebody's way. There's a better shot of, you can see, I mean, obviously it wasn't this far along when I was trying to get through here, or I wouldn't be talking to you right now. But you can see how hot it eventually got. The actual fire didn't make it out into this part of the building, but the heat from the smoke. So you can imagine, I mean, it's all happened in a split second, but you can imagine me standing right here and thinking, all right, do I keep going or do I go back? Because visibility was so low that I didn't know that I was about to get past the worst part. So it a split second to decide whether it was going to get worse if I continued down. And the thing that probably saved me, more than anything else, is that door right there. Because what happened is that my momentum I'm right here and it's extremely hot. And by the way, I'm yelling my head off this whole time. Help, help, help. And of course, that wasn't going to do any good for any number of reasons. But my momentum, as I came around this railing, my momentum swung me just far enough that I could see that it wasn't as bad down there. I could see a little tiny bit of sunlight, and I could hear there were people moving around, and I could hear them. So I knew they couldn't be down there. I mean, all of this happened in a lightning flash, but I knew they couldn't be down there if the fire got worse from here. So I was walking right by a fully involved fire. It was in here and doing its thing, and I'll show you from the other entrance to this apartment. But by the time I got down past all of this, down this half flight of stairs, I knew I was going to be okay. The air was actually breathable here. And this is where they tried to get in, is along this balcony, and there's no way in because it's all burglar proof. This is the apartment where the fire actually happened. This is the second, it's sort of a split level apartment. That's just the bathroom. So you see how close I was to this. And just roaring away. That's the upper level up there. So you can see where it came through and just very, very, very nearly killed me. The other thing I will say, and again, Mike Fulton, my friend, the recently retired firefighter, can help with this, but this idea that you should get low because there'll be more air, that doesn't do you much good if you're already above the fire because the smoke will fill all the space in between. I tried getting low when I was at my door and trying to lock it, which is the stupidest thing you've ever heard in your life. If you're ever in a fire, do not stop to lock your door because that's ridiculous. But once you're this high up and the smoke's already found this egress, getting low isn't going to do you any good because the smoke's coming from below you. So there was no change in density at all between the top of the door and the bottom of the door. It did me no good at all to get low. If you're trying to get low in a fire, you're probably already dead. So it was coming right out there and right out there and eventually hot enough to do all this damage. And then I'll pick you up so I got to this point and I knew I was going to be okay, but I wasn't out yet. There's still another flight. You have to go down another full flight to get to the door. And the rest of the way out onto the street. The other thing I did that was stupid is I went this way, and this way is just an alley, or at least I thought it was. So I'm traveling in this direction to get away from the fire, and the smoke's following me, and there's no egress there, and you keep coming back here. There's no egress back here either, or so I thought. You can't get out back there either. Well, it turns out that this building that you can see the gray metal door closed, that building opens out onto the side street. And somebody took pity on me and said, "Do you want to go out?" Well, the smoke was so thick in here it was tough to breathe, so I couldn't believe being asked that question even, but I said yes. And I went out through that gray door there and came out onto the side street. and the whole thing was over. Just straight to a hotel. So the one other piece of fire safety advice I would give you is that if you're in a T-junction in a fire, if you're ever at a point in a fire where you can turn exactly one of two ways, what you want to do is turn toward the street, dummy. Yeah, I came out this door. I mean, you know, easy to say it was foolish, but I'm completely on autopilot at this point. And the whole thing that I've narrated to you over these whole minutes took, you know, obviously took a couple, 3, 4, 5 seconds. But from this moment, you want to turn, always turn toward the street. Don't turn in a direction that will create a brand new egress problem for yourself. Turn toward wider and wider avenues of escape as you go. Because the longer I stood back there, and you saw the still pictures, some of you, the longer I stood back there, the more it became uncertain that the whole problem wasn't about to start all over again. And fortunately, it didn't. Fortunately, the fire was contained where it was, but could have gotten really dicey if there hadn't been another way out through a business onto that side street.